Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Lauren Bermudez, and I'm the Director of Field Marketing here at Namogoo. Today, we'll be discussing identifying purchase intent to optimize the customer journey. Over the course of the next 45 minutes, we'll cover how and why we recognize high-intent shoppers. We'll talk a little bit about our technologies, and most importantly, we'll have a customer panel discussion with Geraldine Cohen from Fresh and Gareth Reese-John from Kurt Geiger. Before we get into the presentations, just a couple of quick reminders. Please use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen if you have a question you'd like to submit. We'll be taking questions from the audience following the panel discussion. Additionally, this webinar is being recorded. You'll receive a copy of the recording within 48 hours, so you can review the content again if you'd like, or perhaps share it with a colleague. Our hosts for today are Tal Rotman, VP of Partnerships at Namogoo, and Gilad Zuberi, EVP of Global Partnerships at Content Square. Tal will be kicking us off today. Tal, over to you.
Thank you, Lauren. So first of all, we want to start off with what to many of us might seem very common sense, right? This report provided to us by McKinsey really illustrates the fast forward effect that many of us have been feeling. In terms of the e-commerce growth, we're seeing something like 10 years worth of growth condensed into 3 months. This makes a lot of sense to us. The sources of the data, as you can see below, are many. We've also collected some of our own research around where the different verticals are in terms of experiencing this very significant growth. So in terms of the verticals, we're seeing a very significant amount of growth, around 40% in some of these different industries that you see here, such as gifts and hobbies, footwear, health and beauty. These growth spurts are certainly since the beginning of the impact of COVID versus the period right before it. So this is data that we collected from our wide customer base. Now, if we were going to say, grocery, I think that this graph would actually be off the page, and probably a few slides above it. But in terms of the non-grocery retail segments that we are serving, we're seeing a significant amount of quarter-over-quarter growth, and of course, all of this makes sense. The question is, how do we keep these gains, right? How do the e-commerce retailers and brands actually keep these gains as we enter into a form of stability? Next slide here. So, this is to many in the industry, we see this at the moment as an inflection point. That incredible spike that we saw was, a roller coaster ride that many of us have been reacting to. But now we're at a point where we have to understand, what are the different activities that we can do? What are the innovations that we can bring to bear to match these consumer behavioral changes? And how do we ensure that we keep winning these new customers and keep them? How do we ensure that we're engaging and engendering trust and loyalty? And there's many different innovations that are coming to bear at the market, and those who bring them to bear and match them to those consumer behaviors are the ones who are going to win and maintain those gains. I'm going to hand over to Gilad, who's going to talk a little bit about those behavioral innovations.
Thank you, Tal. So, as Tal said, with all of these shifts happening, it's becoming more and more critical to optimize the customer journey. And we have gathered a lot of information about the customer journey. We know today that the conversion rate in mobile is much lower, even though we're seeing a massive increase in mobile traffic coming through the websites. Most people will need 3 visits, sessions before they convert, and will visit 24 pages on average before converting. And 44% of people will put their payment details, but will never complete the transaction on the website. 20% on average will be exposed to injected ads to the website, and those 20% are at risk of we're at risk of losing them throughout the journey. So how do we collect this data? And one second, I don't think I have control of the slides. Oh, here we go. So how do we collect this data, and what data do we need in order to decide, in order to find intent? There's the web matrix, there's the web matrix, all of the data that you're collecting through your web analytics, and I'm sure every person on this call today is collecting that data. Visits, clicks, conversion rate, exits, important data, but very, very basic data that we collect on the client side. On top of that, we collect some behavioral matrix that are hovers, swipe, scrolls, the average fold height of the page, the time on page, hesitation, etc. And there's also the browser matrix, so the actual browser, the device type, extensions that you have on the browser, and ad injections. And another piece of data that we find very critical to decide intent is the network. And this is something that's coming from the Namogoo side, which they monitor and analyze billions of interactions per week in order to get a benchmark of certain users that are more subject to, that are more likely to buy or not to buy on our website. So in today's world, really what someone can click for the next one. Thank you. So once we know the intent, and putting all these signals together is really telling the story here. The e-commerce world is really shifting towards the next best experience, right? Not all visitors want the same thing. Not all of them are coming to our website to buy. Some of them are coming to get service. Some of them are coming to get support and read some content after they've already purchased something for us. Some of them are just browsing. Some of them may look at all the flights right now and compare all the prices, but are only going to come back in the third session, like we saw earlier, to actually convert. And we don't want to treat all of them the same. We don't want to treat all of them as users who we want them to necessarily buy from us, or necessarily just coming to get content. We really want to give them the best experience possible on the lifetime, and really focusing on the intent allows us to prioritize a long-term matrix like lifetime value of the customer. And all of the data that I talked about in the previous slides allows us to know our customers better, even if we don't know them by name, and to create these experiences for them in order to give them really the best experience when they come to your digital properties.
Thanks, Gilad. Now moving on to the technology session. Can you tell us a little bit more about Content Square?
Yeah, so Content Square, what we do is exactly what I started talking about earlier, right? We analyze every interaction on the website. Most of the activity happens between the clicks on the website, and that's 95% of data. And Content Square collects all of that data in order to make it into an actionable data. Basically, we try to answer the why question. If you think about it like a restaurant, when you're a restaurant owner, you can stand on the floor, see if the tables are right, taste the food that comes back from the kitchen with bad reviews from your customers, see that the cutlery is clean, that the toilets have been cleaned, and that the place smells nice. On your digital property, you're basically blind, and Content Square wants to give you that visibility by collecting every interaction that your visitors are doing on the website and presenting it in a very easy and digestible way in the forms of session replays, zone maps like you're seeing right now on the page, on an aggregate level and the macro level, or in the individual level as well through session replay and other data points that we collect.
Great, thanks, Gilad. Tal, can you tell us a little bit more about Namogoo?
Sure, Lauren. So for those who aren't familiar with Namogoo, what we do is we prevent this phenomenon known as customer journey hijacking. And that actually manifests as a form of ad that's actually injected into the visitor's journey in real time. Now, what we do is we prevent that. And as it happens to approximately 20% of visitors, that's a pretty significant impact. People clicking and leaving your e-commerce funnel. What we do is prevent that phenomena. And so doing, we're keeping people on the brand experience that you had defined and actually avoid them from leaving your conversion funnel, leaving your site. More time on site actually results in more customers actually completing the purchase. What's interesting is we found that those visitors who were actually experiencing this phenomena, those customers who are hijacked, actually convert at a very high rate. They convert at something like 2 to 3 times the baseline ratio. Now that's a really interesting segment. That's an audience, a VIP segment that we can actually leverage. And that's where Namogoo and Content Square are working together. We're actually identifying that audience of formerly hijacked sessions, and we're actually realizing that they are high intent, and now they're experiencing a very frictionless journey. And so what can we do to identify those additional points of friction that Content Square can identify, that frustration, and ensure that they are completely experiencing a 100% frictionless journey, and ensure that they have a very clear path to purchase. And that's where we're collaborating.
Thank you, Tal. And now on to the moment you guys have all been waiting for, panel discussion. As I mentioned earlier, we have Geraldine Cohen with us today. She's a digital and e-commerce expert and has been with Fresh for the past 1.5 years as our Senior Director of Global Digital. We also have with us Gareth Rees-John. Gareth is an experienced digital expert and has been the Digital Director at Kurt Geiger for nearly 2 years. Geraldine, Gareth, thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah.
Hold on 1 second. I'm just going to make sure everyone can see you. Okay, perfect. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. Gareth, let's start with you first. Can you tell us a little bit about the Kurt Geiger customer and what's unique about their customer journey?
Yeah, I suppose we've got a complex business with Kurt Geiger. Hello, everyone. I've been there for about 2 years now. Previously at Arcadia Group and at places like Marks and Spencer prior to that, always sort of on the customer side of digital shopkeeping, really. The Kurt Geiger, although we only sell shoes and handbags, there are 3 distinct different brands within our portfolio of our own brands anyway. We've got our Kurt Geiger brand, our Carvela brand, and then a multi-brand website called Shoeaholics. If you haven't heard of that, go check it out, especially if you're in the UK. Best value shoes to be had in the UK. A little plug there. The difference between them all is interesting to me. That, you know, most people have heard of Carvela and heard of Kurt Geiger, but probably don't understand that Carvela is Kurt Geiger or a sub-brand of. So all our shops are branded Kurt Geiger, or our website is branded Kurt Geiger, but 50% of the sales that we do there and 50% of the catalogue is actually Carvela. So the difference between a Kurt Geiger customer who is perhaps a little bit more trend-led, a little bit higher price point. Carvela is much more feminine. It's more of a sort of more conservative, but still very sort of on-trend product. Both have very similar sort of values in the sort of premium price point range, but the difference between those 2 customers is vast, in as much as the Carvela customer, you know, we have a whole section in the Carvela brand called Carvela Comfort, for instance, which we wouldn't have a Carvela Comfort in Kurt Geiger. Not to say that Kurt Geiger shoes aren't comfortable, but it's not the primary reason you would buy one. The primary reason for Kurt Geiger is because they're amazing shoes, whereas and they're, you know, they're following the latest trends, and probably somebody who's a little bit more daring with their fashion would be in the Kurt Geiger brand. Also, the Kurt Geiger brand is a sort of wider age profile, from sort of 18 right up to sort of, you know, 75, 80, depending on where you want to top these things out these days. Carvela a little bit more, a little bit older perhaps, but really more classified by conservatism. And then Shoeaholics is a totally different proposition. It's a multi-brand proposition. Majority discounted brands, although full price brands increasing and have increased over the last year. We've got over 100 brands on the site now. It's quite a sort of, I always sort of joke, it's the sort of coupon code mum who is the queen of Shoeaholics. It's the department store customer. It's the Macy's in America. It's the sort of John Lewis Debenhams House of Fraser customer in the UK. So they want big range, they want to go to one place, they want to have lots and lots of choice, and they want to be guided through the journey of it, but really they're looking after the family purse. So value is absolutely everything. So they'd want to buy into Kurt Geiger perhaps, but perhaps, you know, it's a bit of a reach brand for them. So they'd buy it on Sureholics and it'd be last season's Kurt Geiger. I think that we've seen some real change in those customer dynamics over lockdown. Obviously, I think we all have. We were saying it's a bit Groundhog Day for those of us who've been working all the time. But some of the just unique things that have changed for me in the digital customer patterns have been, you know, we used to always have a massive spike at commuting times. 80% of our traffic comes through mobile, and similar on revenue, to be honest. So it's a very mobile first, or just mobile, right? Business, never mind mobile first. So that commuting spike of 5 till 7 o'clock has just gone. So we used to see this big surge again at 5 till 7. If we sent our emails on send time optimization, we'd, you know, half the people would definitely receive them between 5 and 6 o'clock when they're on that train, bus, car, home, and they'd be doing that. That's gone completely. We're also seeing a massive, more of an enhanced spike around payday and pay weekend. So, you know, we would always have a little bit of a lift on pay weekend. We're not a sort of value brand that does big deals every payday or anything. So we haven't artificially created that spike, but we had it sort of a little bit before, but we're seeing big spikes around payday. And then the final thing really that we're seeing is a much more weather dependent purchase pattern. Now, obviously when the sun shines, you buy sandals, and when it rains, you buy boots, but you know, more long term trends across the year, whereas we're actually seeing sunny day buy sandals, rainy day buy trainers. So we're definitely seeing those trends be enhanced during lockdown.
Great. And Geraldine, what about you? Can you tell us a little bit about the Fresh customer and what's unique about their journey?
Yes, of course. So Fresh is a skincare brand, skincare global brand, US born, but really now reaching customers all across the globe, and mainly developed in North America and Asia. And I would say what's unique about our customer is that dichotomy between the patterns of consumption across the Western markets and the Asian markets, where skincare in general is a very different usage. So that has, as a consequence that our products are really seen in a different way. So the skincare routines, as you call it in the industry, are really different, and that's our categories. Like in the US, and in the UK now that we've actually this year in 2020 seen tremendous growth in the UK, we're known as a cleanser brand, and we have an iconic product that's the Soy Face cleanser that's been on the market over 25 years, and it's the #1 skincare cleanser at Sephora. And what's unique about the journey here is that people actually used to discover our products in retail, mainly at Sephora, being our #1 retail partner, and our sister brand through LVMH, so with very big links with that retailer. Since 2020 and lockdown and the shutdown of all of our retail stores, that dynamic has completely changed, and now more than ever we're seeing this will from our customers to actually come direct to the brand and have a more personal tie to the brand. And then in Asia, I think it's a much more elaborate skincare routine where we're sort of battling upscale to go this essence and serum route, and also the landscape of how people discover us there is much more not complicated, but has different sort of steps, as there's multiple platforms, and social shopping has become also one of a huge trend right now, and especially live streaming in Asia, that has completely changed the way that we discover our customers and that we get enticed to that first buy in Asia as well. So I would say uniqueness is 2 different types of customers across the globe with 2 completely different paths to purchase, and both of them, their unique way, have been completely changed through this coronavirus crisis.
Yeah, so obviously the coronavirus for both of you has had a large impact. Let's get into business metrics a little bit. Gareth, can you talk about the change in business metrics that you've noticed since the beginning of the year?
Yeah, I mean, clearly we've seen the same as most people have. I mean, some sectors have been affected much more than others. If you read all the reports that have been out there, footwear actually is one of the most affected sectors of retail. You know, I don't know about everyone else who's in lockdown, but you know, you really only need running shoes, slippers, or flip-flops, and that's about it, right? So you don't need a pair of nice, you know, sparkly new heels. Now, obviously, I wouldn't have bought them anyway, but you know, I'm talking, you know, for my customers, they don't need a sparkly new pair of heels to go to that amazing event. You know, weddings are off, so people, you know, buy a new pair of shoes for a wedding. The other thing that we've seen is that, you know, people buy shoes to go on holiday. You know, summer shoes are all about, you pull your old sandals out from last year and you're going somewhere swanky on your holidays and you want to wear some new shoes. And without that, it's been tough. Notwithstanding, what we've tried to do, therefore, is a number of things which we'll talk about a bit later, I think, to sort of change the way we talk to customers. But we've, through really trying to work hard on the conversion optimization metrics, whether that be using tools like Content Square, or whether it be using Google Analytics, or whether it be using other segmentation tools that we've got at our disposal, we've really worked on conversion, and we've seen conversion to begin with. Traffic was back, even on total digital. You know, we're normally about 50-50 on the Kurt Geiger brand, online and in store in the UK. So we'd have expected a whole load of those store customers to rush to online. But the problem was there wasn't a load of rush into any shoes. So actually, to start with, the traffic dipped, but then it came back really strong. And I think that was credit to some of the things we did as a brand. Conversion was, you know, 20-30 percentage points up on the year, week in, week out, as there was more loyal customers, had a higher intent when they came to the site. There was less browsing behavior going on. And our e-commerce total turnover now is double digit on the year in total for the whole period, which we're really pleased about. Average order value actually has only been changed really by the mix of products. So people have been, it's the year of the sneaker. It's always the year of the sneaker, right? But this year is definitely the year of the sneaker again. And so, you know, a sort of summer sandal might be slightly cheaper than a more highly constructed sneaker. So we've seen people trade up in that way.
Gotta be comfortable. Geraldine, what about you? What business metrics have you seen change over the course of the year so far?
So for us, it was a little bit opposite. I think that, you know, in the past, people have been using our site mainly to browse and to gain insight on our products, and then would go into a Sephora or, you know, one of our few department store doors. With the lockdown and the pandemic, people actually retain their intent to purchase for skincare. So we've seen that traffic has been really up, plus 65% increase in traffic in April versus February. I'm not counting March because in the US we started lockdown mid-March, so I think it's more useful to look at April. So plus 65%, 80% of those new visitors being new visitors, and then an increase of 30% in conversion rate. So we've really seen an uptick up till the beginning of that crisis, and a shift to digital immediately, which completely overwhelmed us. You know, digital in terms of mix of business was representing about 30% of Fresh total business in 2019, and it's now 60%. So we weren't really equipped for that. So it's been really a focus in that we needed to, you know, set up for success. So getting a new warehouse, you know, warehouse was not able to deal with that new volume. We were also putting in place coronavirus, you know, social distancing and shifts in the warehouse. Our warehouse is in New Jersey, which was a hotspot. So we had to open a new warehouse in Florida, which is now a hotspot. So we had to bring back. But, you know, a lot of adjusting, you know, staffing our customer service and, you know, tapping into our retail and store teams to do that. So not only the metrics, but also in general, the way that we had to operate the business all shifted from offline to online, like overnight. And we have been actually, you know, knock on wood, it's been going pretty well for the brand as of now, because we were able to offset all of the retail losses through this great acceleration of digital. And that happened not only in our home market, but we're up 200% in e-commerce in the UK, up 180% in China. So it's really been across the board.
That's amazing. It's got to be helping you that people are staring at themselves on Zoom every single day.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and then Gareth, are you seeing a difference in your visitors? What new approaches are you taking to convert and build relationships and trust?
Yeah, we've seen a real change, actually. It's been interesting. I think new customer mix dropped straight away. The reason for that mainly was, as everyone went into lockdown and we had to close all of our retail stores, we had to significantly claw back on costs as a business to keep ourselves afloat. We're a private equity-backed business, and they're very clear that we're here to make some money at the end of the day. We're here to sell great shoes and make people look fabulous, but the reason to be in business is to take money. So we had to strip back our digital marketing significantly, and then the board made the decision in July, just to make my life a little bit more challenging, to support the Facebook boycott as well. So 30% of my marketing spend was through incredibly targeted, complex social advertising through Facebook and Instagram, and all that had to be switched off overnight. And so therefore getting new customers during this period has been a real challenge. So our new customer rate, which would normally be in like the 70s, dropped way below 50. So what we did is we really focused back on our core customers and tried to make something a bit different in the market. Instead of just going into big discounts, which a lot of our competitors did, we actually held steady and used this as an opportunity to not discount. So we didn't discount at all for our core customer base or any of our new customers, kept prime, kept elevating the brand and tried to break that cycle of constant discounting. We're going to have no like-for-likes on those big promotions next year because the whole world will be a different place, hopefully, next year. So we used it as an opportunity to do that and instead go out there and talk to our customers. We did two things. The first thing is we said right out the doors, all National Health Service, so nursing staff and care workers, 50% off the bat. So we went straight in from there and said, big discount for this one core set of people who are really, having to work in very tough times at the moment. That went down incredibly well. Clearly, it got us some great PR, but also we spun up and worked with a company so that we could do our own on-site verification of their identifications. So, excuse me, always happens, right? So that helped a little bit. And then the second thing we did is we just went out there and looked at much more about what we could be to show our sort of charitable donations sort of side of the business. Looked at our CSR program and said, we can be more than just a shoe brand here. So we worked with UK Black Pride to design a face mask with a rainbow on it. That is our symbol anyway. Quite frankly, we have the Rainbow Kensington handbag, which is our iconic product. So the rainbow is really synergistic with Kurt Geiger. So it was an opportunity to take that out there, do donations for that. We did when we reopened our shops for the first 2 months. We all the profits go to the NHS. So we tried to go out there really with a slightly different angle to our core customers to sort of say, well, the reason why you shop at Kurt Geiger or Carvela or Shoeaholics is not just because you love the shoes, but actually it's a brand that you can resonate with and you can be sort of proud to come and do business with, really.
That's great. And then Geraldine, in personal care and cosmetics, we see an increase in new customers. What are you doing to convert and build relationships with those customers?
Yeah, so yes, we have seen that increase. And I think in general, this is a space where we are used to having new customers all the time because the main issue of this market is a lack of loyalty. So people try products from different brands and then switch from one to another, following trends, influencers, and whatnot. So what we did is we identified that about 80% of our customers were one-time buyers. And we relaunched our loyalty program to be able to go from that one to then up and really focus on the lifetime value of our customer versus just that one-time conversion that we had been previously and not encouraging, but suffering from. So we launched a loyalty program with a cashback reward, and it has shown tremendous success. I don't have specific KPIs yet because it's only been like 6 weeks, so we're waiting a bit to pull together a report. But what we're seeing so far is that, you know, we're seeing an increase in our second-time buyers. What we also did is what we saw is like we saw an increase in new customers from a younger generation, and we really wanted to tap into it and create that direct relationship that, you know, this new Gen Z is actually looking for, you know, following the wave of direct-to-consumer brands that really changed some of the consumption habits. So we try to remove barriers to purchase, such as payment options. So we worked on split payment options. So we launched Afterpay in the US. We're launching Klarna in the UK right now. And we're also worked on partnerships with, you know, younger influencers. We did a big soy campaign in the US with about 15 US influencers. That was done across our own sites and also Sephora and obviously paid media. And then lastly, we also partnered through affiliates with new student groups, because we really wanted to tap into that full range of that younger customer group. And that also showed good success. So bringing in that new customer and identifying really their needs and then following them with a new loyalty program has been, you know, the core of our strategy for that.
Great. And then Gareth, how do you identify high intent customers, high purchase intent customers?
Well, we use a variety of data sources for this to build up sort of the happiest pathways, and then how we can identify those customers. And, you know, it wouldn't be a webinar by Namogoo and Content Square if I didn't say that, you know, I'm a customer of both of those software companies, and they both do genuinely help me do that. You know, the Namogoo hijack segment have a much higher purchase rate, their conversion levels are higher, and they also respond to ads more effectively. Clearly, if you are the sort of person that downloads all sorts of crap into your browser to inject all sorts of stuff, you're sort of fairly happy or normal with that, and therefore you doing it on your own site rather than them, that really helps. And then from an analytics point of view, we use a mix really of GA360 and Content Square data. Content Square for the sort of visual elements to quickly make decisions and understand sort of quick changes, and then from a long-term trend and sort of more detailed analysis down to sort of the individual product level, we'll use GA360. So we sort of model what therefore the really happy paths are and what the differences in those happy paths are. I suppose one of the pieces that sort of added to our piece is that we've got, you know, the whole Kurt Geiger and Carvela range at full price is also sold on Shoeaholics. So I've got to decide very early on who to show which advert for, that they're going to be more likely to convert on the same product, really from the same company, but just in a different bag. So we do some work on just, you know, lookalike audiences and things like that. So we take all our third-party data, we take all our on-site data, and then we try to look at, you know, the biggest segment changes that you can make for the biggest bang for your buck.
That's great. And Geraldine, what about you? How do you guys recognize your high purchase intent customers?
Yeah, I would say a little bit the same. We obviously use Content Square a lot, and we use it in conjunction with an A/B testing and personalization engine. And through that, we have launched, you know, a lot of little add-ons such as, you know, sticky banners, retainers. So like when you're about to get out of the site, we give you like add-on messages and things like that. So really from an on-site perspective, that's been showing a lot of success. And then really also obviously super personalizing our and targeting our ads, and really working hard on our lookalikes based on our CRM database. We've also been working increasingly in segmenting our database and understanding why people are coming to us, because as I was telling you in the first question, we've we have different types of customers. So, you know, like the skincare aficionado who's going to go for full routine and who's going to be interested in more elevated product versus, you know, the quick skincare, lazy type of routine that's just like a cleanser, moisturizer. And then we also have like different strategies of targeting for that. So, yeah, I would say also a mix of those. And increasingly, we've been also trying to bring our retail customer back to our sites. And that's really been also a focus through lockdown, where we work with our retail teams and boutique teams. So we've launched a bunch of, like, you know, online consultations, buying sessions, live sessions with really targeted communities around our retails that, you know, were maybe a retail customer that never actually checked out on our site, and really building one-on-one relationships through our FAs to bring that new population to our site.
Great. And then Gareth, how do you optimize the experience for those high intent purchase or high intent customers?
I think similarly to Geraldine, really, we use an overlay company that sort of allows us to A/B test and give different experiences at the front end very rapidly to different segments based on all sorts of different groups of data that we can put into it. I mean, I use Qubit. There are other brands available, clearly, but you know, I'm a big fan of what Qubit can do, the simplicity of it, and as much as, you know, so from some of the basic things like, you know, social proof, like this many people have added this to bag previously, are driven through the Qubit, through to much more complex things like, you know, recognizing that they've come in from a NHS approved affiliate website and then showing them the price that they will pay as they browse with their 50% discount code as they go through the site, or, you know, delivering a different homepage experience for a person coming with an NHS code or a returning customer with an NHS code. So I know they're in the nursing industry, they've perhaps used their code on site previously, so when they come, Qubit can identify them and we can, you know, show them things that are more relevant to those sorts of customers, not only price but also segmented products as well. The other things we tend to do is we look at things like, you know, personalization from the point of view of products. So you know, we haven't got a huge vast catalog, it's not as complex as perhaps something like Geraldine's doing, but there is like a, you know, a trainers affinity group, a sandals affinity group, a heels affinity group, and therefore what we'll do in a bags affinity group. Bags is a very important part of our brand, particularly internationally, where it can be you know, 50% of the mix in America, where it would normally be about 30 in the UK. So we have all those affinities that we will use to not only give it different experiences and different product assortments to show to those customers on the site. It will have different suggestions, again, with sort of pop-ups and inserts appropriately put as they go through checkout for add-on purchases because of that. And also then obviously we use it for CRM, and then they get a different, you know, more personalized email because of that. So I think that there's some of the sort of key things we do from a sort of, you know, first things. And then, you know, similarly to Geraldine's talked about, we've got probably, you know, we'll be running anything of sort of 30 or 40 A/B tests on the site to eliminate friction through the site for these customers. You know, whether it's sort of very small things like, you know, ordering of where information is on a page, where we've seen in either Content Square or in GA, we're seeing some, you know, strange behavior loops that we want to try and shut down. So little things, and then, you know, more large things like stripping everything out of the product detail page on mobile and making it very simple, and seeing if any segments, you know, respond differently to a simplified journey, or more people want more information. So I think that there's probably sort of two different approaches that we have towards it, really.
Great. And then Geraldine, was there anything else you wanted to add about how you optimize for high intent purchase customers?
Yeah, no, I think it's honestly very similar techniques. Personalization and, you know, having that homepage personalized product recommendation has been really working well. One of the big area that also we have seen is site speed that we're focusing on right now, because honestly, when you have a huge increase in traffic and you're doing all of those add-ons, you know, we had been suffering from site speed issues, and I think for especially right now, you're trying to capture the attention of like new customers. If they have a high intent to purchase at your brands, they can also walk away super fast because, you know, they usually the attention level that you're getting right now is smaller than before. So we're really working on that, and as a core focus to, you know, yes, it's nice to personalize, but if your site takes 15 seconds to load, then what's the point? No one's never even going to reach your product page. So that, I think that's the only thing I would add on top of that, is really have a performing site and you know, all of your basic covers.
Right. You want to make it as easy as possible for people to purchase.
Yeah.
I know you guys are talking about and even just payment process. Like Apple Pay for me is horrible.
Yes.
Like 2
Yes.
clicks and it's done, and it's terrifying. It makes it too easy.
Yeah, Apple Pay, like we've seen increase in all of this, like Apple Pay, PayPal, Afterpay has been, again, super big win to have those split payment options. I think especially right now with the level of uncertainty that a lot of people are facing, I mean, that we're all facing, in you know, not knowing what your paycheck's going to be next month, you want to minimize that and like keep your bucks for the moment. So that has been really a huge lesson, and just following trends also. Like I think the market is evolving so fast in these days that you want to make sure, like, live shopping wasn't a thing in the West a couple of months now. We're seeing that it's becoming a huge trend, and it's actually delivering. Social commerce is also like becoming big, and we're seeing that a lot of trends that are starting in China are now, you know, coming to the Western markets, and it's really fast in the way that they change.
Yeah, and we probably have time for just one more question, and I'll ask it to both of you. Do you see the shift in e-commerce to continuing to grow in the long term, beyond the pandemic? Gareth, do you want to go ahead and respond first?
Yeah, I just think it's accelerated certain things. I don't think it's fundamentally changed anything dramatically. I don't think that people have discovered online shopping. I think they, you know, it's no longer, you don't need to put on the front of your shop that you have a website. People sort of assume it. Like you don't have to put that you've got a Facebook page, because again, that's where people live their lives, and they'll search for it. So I think there's been an acceleration for sure. I think there's been a number of people who really like shopping in shops for the social aspect of it. You know, I know my daughters, teenage daughters, they still want to go to the shopping centres with their friends. You know, as soon as they could, they did it again, because it's a social event as well as a purchasing event. So I think that, yeah, I think that for many businesses, it's woken them up to how bad or how good their e-commerce is, and whether they're set up for it. And I'm sure that it will always be a bigger part going forward. But really, I think there's still a core of customers who want and have already chosen the way that they shop, if you see what I mean. You either love shopping for shoes in a shoe shop, or you love shopping for shoes online. The lockdown has just meant that you can't go to the shoe shop, so you might have had to go to online if you needed to. But afterwards, whether you're going to continue to do that or not, I think only time will tell.
Right. And Geraldine, I know that you guys said that you were able to really recover revenue losses that you would have had at brick and mortar just by the increase to e-commerce. What are your thoughts about the pandemic long term?
So what we're really looking at China for that, right? Because they're back to normal, if that exists. And we're seeing a sustained growth in e-commerce. We're, however, seeing that it's a little bit slower than during the lockdown, obviously. As Gareth said, I really agree with that statement. Like, if you're someone who really likes to go to a store, as soon as you feel safe to go back to the store, you're going to do it. And beauty products specifically are very personal, and are, you know, one of our key positioning is that we're a sensorial brand. So people want to look, touch, and smell the product before they buy it. And even though, you know, we're putting, sampling programs and things like that online for people to have that experience, at the end of the day, if you're a shop lover, you're going to go back to retail. So what we're seeing, though, I agree with Garrett, it's accelerated the digital growth. It was growing, like the mix of business was growing like 5 to 10% each year anyways. And your first slide was that, this year has been 10-year growth. I don't think we're going to go back to the level of 2019 overnight. I just think that the growth is going to slow down eventually because the retail will pick back up again.
Right.
But definitely, I think e-commerce is here to stay. And, we all knew that before the pandemic. It's just now accelerating. For us, it wasn't 50-50, it was 30-70, and it's probably going to remain at 50-50 after the pandemic. That's what we expect.
I don't know about you, Geraldine, but I think that what's sort of quite nice for us digital leaders is that our voice is now suddenly a little bit louder in every boardroom. It's suddenly like, oh, right. Oh, okay. It's a bit more important now.
Exactly. I remember, begging for things, and now they're like, what do you need?
Absolutely. So
clean your podium. All right, guys. Well, we're out of time for today, but I'd just like to thank our speakers and, of course, Geraldine and Gareth for joining us today. We really appreciate it. For everyone that joined, we really hope you found this webinar to be informative, and we hope to see you next time. Have a great day.
thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.